want some equality between men and women. So if we think of benefits or access to resources, they want everyone to have access to resources. Men and women should both take part in decision-making process. So they argue that generalizations of traditional sociology are in fact of male actors and male experience. And feminist writers accuse male sociologists of starting from the value judgment that what is good for men is good for society. The feminists, they accuse male sociologists for saying like what is good for men is good for society, not what is good for women is good for the society, because of the value that is attached to men. So they argue that beneficial for society should in fact be beneficial for men. And in reaction to this male-centeredness, feminists have tried to present a theoretical system of ideas about features of social life from a woman-centered perspective. Because most of the male sociologists were male-centered. What is good for men is good for society. Now the feminists now are trying to come up with the woman-centered perspective, thinking of the issues affecting women so that it can be some form of equality to reduce the issues of oppression by oppression of women. We have females, male and female sociologists. Of course, even the feminists, it doesn't mean the feminists are all females. We also have males advocating for the rights of women or equality of, yeah. But it's the feminist writers that accuse the male sociologists. Really, they are the ones that came up with the idea of saying what is good for men is good for society because of the value that attached to men. So feminists try to understand why women are always disadvantaged in most aspects of life. Why women? So that was the question they wanted to understand. Why women are always disadvantaged in almost all aspects of life, or in most aspects of life. Because if we talk of decision making, women are disadvantaged. Control of resources, men are disadvantaged. Women are disadvantaged. Why? Women disadvantaged in most aspects of life. So the feminist sociological theory has tried to explain the social differences between males and females and have reasoned and then to describe the kind of social changes that will lead to women equality and freedom. The feminist sociologists, they have tried what kind of social changes are needed to make sure that there is equality between men and women, or women have freedom. So there is need for social change, even in our thinking capacity, because of the value that our societies hold against men or women. So they have challenged traditional theories to focus on women who, insubordinated by indispensable serving roles, have worked to sustain and create the society that we live in. Women who are subordinates, who are always dominated. And usually we find women having performing the roles that sustain the society. Because in most cases, if you talk of the roles, they are the women who perform most of the roles that sustain the society, even though they are oppressed or even though they are insubordinated. But most of the roles that benefit the society or that sustain the society, they are done by women. If you remember the types of gender roles: productive, reproductive, and community roles. Yeah. So feminism, in general terms, is the advocacy of social equality for the sexes in opposition to patriarchy and sexism. I'll send you the notes. I will. Feminism in general terms is advocacy for social equality for the sexes meaning men and women, in opposition to patriarchy and sexism. So this definition may seem to present feminism as single, unified perspective, but there are many kinds of feminisms. We have different people who studied the issue of feminism. We have different perspectives, people with different perspectives. So as we study the different types of feminism, you realize even the feminists themselves, they had different views or different perspectives when it comes to issues of women. So despite the variations in feminist theories, they all seek to liberate women by investigating their situations and experiences in the society. So despite having different views, the feminists with different perspectives, but all of them, their aim is to seek liberation of women in the society. Liberate women from the issues of inequality in the societies that the women experience. So the aim is to provide or to produce a better world for women. Since we said women are usually in most cases disadvantaged. So the aim is to produce a better world for women, and they seek to develop effective means to eradicate gender inequality. So all the issues of feminism came because of the gender equality. There is one gender benefiting more from the other, or one gender being discriminated over the other, one gender being favored or being treated unfairly than the other. So the aim is equal treatment for both males and females. Why should this gender benefit at the expense of the other? For we are all human beings. So those advocates of women, gender equality for women, though they were both fighting for freedom of women and equality for women, but they also have different perspectives. So we'll look at them. So feminist historians have discovered that women have always been aware of their oppression. Like historically, feminists know that women have been aware of being oppressed in the society and have in some way protested against it. However, this protest remained fragmented because women's actions and writing were not systematically included in historical record. Women have been aware of being oppressed and they have protested in one way or the other. However, their actions were not presented in maybe some writing in the records. You don't find it, like maybe the women protested against this, women protested in one way or the other. So the result was that these women who resisted gender inequality were not aware of these efforts of others before them, and this inhibited development of feminist consciousness or group consciousness, which was necessary to bring desired change. Like, because it was not recorded, it's not available in historical record. So you couldn't know which group of women were also protesting against the issues of gender inequality, or the issues of oppression. They knew it, they demonstrated, it was not recorded. So it was not until 19th century when feminist protests began to be organized, because the first was not organized. Some people, like women who protest, maybe in an organization, wherever they are, but it was not organized. But in the 19th century is when they began to be organized in a combined effort for women's emancipation as a result of female sex category. So now they start getting organized to fight against the equality of men and women, like the issues of oppression. So the development of this protest operated at three levels: intellectual, economic, and social. Socio-economic and political. Intellectual, socio-economic, and political. Because if you talk of gender inequality, there are different, women are oppressed in different aspects, even economically, even in politics, like previously, you would find only men holding higher positions in politics or taking part in politics. Even at work, you could see only maybe men taking higher positions in occupation. Even when it comes to education, it was usually men who were educated, unlike women. So this already, in all those aspects, because if you talk of being oppressed, we are oppressed in different ways. So the question is, what did the feminists really want? They wanted equal rights with men, especially equal education opportunities that time. They wanted equality, equal rights with men. And their main argument was that women's abilities were the same as men's abilities. Like the ability of women were almost the same as men, and they should be given similar opportunities so that they can develop their abilities to their full potential. So even those women in the upper and middle classes who acquired more education in the early 19th century found that many professionals were legally closed to them. So like in the past, in the 19th century, even for those middle class women who were educated, but most of their professions were locked legally. It means if they say a woman cannot occupy this position, you couldn't occupy that position. So feminists are both women and men who supported women's claims. As I say, feminists are not only women. Not only women were or are fighting for women's rights, but both men and women. So, for example, one of the early feminists was Hippel, who wrote in 1979 that women were not simply neglected, but were deliberately suppressed, coded into laziness, and educated to be ignorant. We are not simply neglected, but we were deliberately suppressed. So they were doing it deliberately, being suppressing women. Deliberate. Yeah. So he argued that reason was a gift which nature had freely given to all humans and had to be developed with the fulfillment of its potential. And also in France, there were writers like Montesquieu, whatever, who were sympathetic to women's claims. So it was not only women who advocated for women's rights, also have men. So these slides are just talking about the same thing. These are just examples of different feminists here. So let's look at Mills. Mills further argued that if it was believed that women's natural calling was marriage and motherhood, then there was no need to pass laws to prevent them from deserting. I think he's starting from somewhere. It's another feminist theory example. So some historians argue that feminism arose out of changes in the economy and structure of the family. Some historians argue that feminists arose out of changes in the economy and the structure of the family. As it said that the Industrial Revolution led to a change in the productive system as a result of Industrial Revolution. Because Industrial Revolution led to changes in the economy and also structures of the family. So the Industrial Revolution led to a decline in domestic production and to changes in the structure of the family, where production shifted to the factory. So due to industrial revolution, there was decline in domestic production because most of the people are working in the industries. So structure of the production and led to change in structure of the family, where production shifted to the family. Members of the extended family who once depended on family as a production unit had to seek alternative employment as means of livelihood. Members of extended family, because most people move to work in the industry. So the dependents of the extended family, they had to look to seek alternative ways of employment and means of livelihood. And female members of the family were the most affected since they found themselves legally barred from all types of jobs, except the most menial and degrading. So industrial revolution, because in most cases men were found working in the industries, but it affected women mostly because they were legally barred from working in those industries, except maybe when it's labor intensive jobs or degrading jobs, that's where women were taking part. So feminist movement therefore emerged as unmarried middle class. Middle class women began to agitate for admission into professions which would guarantee them an income and standing corresponding to the social status of the family to which they were born. So the feminist movement began with the unmarried middle class women who wanted to be admitted in different professions. You are educated, now they want to be admitted to different professions so that they can have a source of income for themselves and also to any status from the families in which they were born. So the agitation sparked a chain of reaction as more demands were added to such as admission to universities for necessary qualifications and admission to professions. So not only did they want to be admitted in different professions as they were previously barred, but also to be admitted in different universities so that they get the desired qualifications for different professions. They start to fight for their own rights. They all want to be admitted in different jobs or different universities so that they get the knowledge or the qualification for them to work. So campaigns for votes in order to gain the necessary political power, which would turn influence to the statement just having campaigns for votes in order to gain the necessary political power, which would to change. So in short, feminist movement began by addressing themselves to women economic dependency and the exploitation that resulted from it. So the movement began by addressing themselves to women economic dependency, because if they were not given jobs, they were not given chance to go to school. It means you have to be dependent on someone. You have to be dependent on your husband. So that's how it started. And also the issue of exploitation, because if you are just working in the home, you can easily get exploited. You depend on someone to give you money for food. What if they don't give you? You'll be suffering. So those are the issues that resulted uh, to the feminist movement. How? Let's stop here. I think I'm tired. Any question? Of course, we have not yet finished the history, how feminism started. Are we together?